Don't think Gladiator needs an introduction. It is the best early game option for almost every game mode in the game, having little to no replacement in its role, is what I would say if it was 2021. However, time goes by, and now Gladiator went from being praised and even said by some to be needing a nerf, to being arguably outclassed and ineffective early game tower in now most game modes. It is really only good in Molten and maybe Pizza Party now, but with Molten mode having a rework soon as of editing this video, he may be left with next to nothing to offer. But what happened to the former king of speedrunning and best event tower? This won't be a history of Gladiator video. Let's leave it to another time. Instead, let's discuss the reasons of why Gladiator is no longer what it used to be. First reason is simply change of environment. As we all know, Fallen mode got reworked not too long ago. Before rework, Gladiator was actually really good for Fallen mode, being able to handle early game really well for a cheap cost. However, after rework happened, Gladiator was not longer a suitable early game option due to all enemies having way more HP and stronger stuff coming out sooner. New Fallen made range a priority in early game, and Gladiator has abysmal range due to being a melee tower. Newly released intermediate mode is also not very good for Gladiator due to being very spammy, and while Gladiator has Pierce, it's capped to 3 enemies, meaning you will leak a lot of stuff. Hardcore was never a good place for Gladiator from the moment of its release. Due to 50% inflation, Gladiator loses a lot of value and becomes way more difficult to use, especially with his range. Lead and flying enemies who come out very early do not help. Badlands has 3 enemy paths, meaning that once again, you need towers with good range, and Gladiator does not have good range. Polluted Wasteland has enemies with really high HP, and lots of them move really fast, meaning Gladiator loses out once again. This means that Gladiator has 3 game modes left: Easy, Molten and Pizza Party. Easy is irrelevant, and there is no point in playing it outside of getting badge. Molten is about to get a rework which may make Gladiator not good for it as it happened with Fallen mode. And Pizza Party has better options nowadays, but more on that later. As you can see, nearly all game modes dismiss Gladiator nowadays, and those who don't have their own problems. Gladiator is a really old tower who got little to no changes outside of couple of nerfs which contributed to him falling off further. Meta evolved, but Gladiator didn't. Remember when I mentioned that there are better options in Pizza Party? Well, this was foreshadowing for second reason for Gladiator falling off. During Gladiator's peak, there was little to no replacement for him. Other early game options either gave worse results or worked differently. Gladiator was the only early game melee tower which gave good results. And by good I mean best results possible. Like people were actually calling for Gladiator nerf. That's how strong it was. However, a couple years later, early game department got a lot of newcomers and some of them don't just give the same result. They are straight up better in most cases. Let me run down every single early game tower that rivaled Gladiator from 2021 to 2024. Firstly, we have Golden Scout. He always has rivaled Gladiator in its history, both being best early game towers for pretty long period of time. They were also compared because of that. However, verdict was that Gladiator is better for speedrunning in exchange for extra risk of leaking enemies due to short range. This meant that Gladiator wasn't impacted much by Golden Scout. Golden Pyro was trash until 2022, where he received some pretty neat buffs that turned him into mini accelerator in early game. However, his drawback was that he was too expensive to place on first wave, meaning you had to wait 20 seconds to actually place him. So Gladiator still stood strong. Warden was the first tower to truly be similar to Gladiator. He was also melee tower that could be used in early to mid game. However, it was quickly proven that due to lack of splash damage and average fire rate, Gladiator still was better in early game in most game modes. Shotgunner, however, was the first tower to be straight up better than Gladiator in most scenarios. It always was similar tower to Gladiator, but never was better than it, until the insane buff it got at start of 2024. I can say a lot about it, but this screenshot should be enough. However, 3 months later it got pretty big nerf and things returned to normal, is what I would say if Brawler wasn't released in March. Brawler was busted when he was released, and he was essentially a better Warden. As we know, Warden was similar to Gladiator, so Brawler was also similar to Gladiator. In fact, Brawler actually outdone Gladiator in some speedrun strats on harder game modes due to way better DPS despite no splash. Funnily enough, Brawler was used alongside Gladiator in speedrun starts of Pizza Party. This worked because Gladiator covered Brawler's single target with its splash, while Brawler destroyed high health enemies. Since then Brawler was nerfed and he lost hidden detection. Cryomancer got bugged in brief period, making it deal damage on level 0, which is not supposed to happen. It quickly became best early game tower in the game, but the bug was quickly fixed. Paintballer got a massive buff out of nowhere at July 19, 2024, and became arguably better than Gladiator. Unfortunately, he quickly got nerfed back to F tier. Lastly, both Golden Soldier and Golden Crook boss all got buffed overall in 2024, becoming amazing early to mid-game towers. They were also suited to current meta, unlike Gladiator, who already was falling off due to being outdated. As you can see, Gladiator got a lot of competition through all these years. He is no longer as dominant as he was even a year ago. Combined with meta change, we can now understand why Gladiator became more and more irrelevant as time went on. So this is why Gladiator fell off. He is no longer the best early game tower in most scenarios, neither he is the best event tower. Don't get me wrong, Gladiator is still a good tower in some scenarios. He is just a fraction of what he used to be. He really needs a rework in my opinion to keep up with new meta. Otherwise he risks falling off further and further with each update. That was all. See you next time. Bye.